Welcome to Kava and Kettlebells, where we talk about Kava, fitness, and life. Let's get Kavified.
All right. Hey, what's up? Welcome to my channel. My name is Charles. I am the host of Kava and Kettlebells podcast. So if you want to learn more about that kind of stuff, I talk about Kava, Kratom, botanicals, and just fitness overall. Please check out the rest of my episodes. But today, I am solo. Usually I do the podcast with my wife, Heidi, because I am talking about something that's a little bit more in line with, I say for the fellows out there, right? So for the guys who like going into the gym, building muscle, and might have dabbled with anabolics in the past. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I am 35 years old, and I have a history of living what I guess I would call the bodybuilding lifestyle, right? So going back into my early 20s, kind of like most of you guys, if you use anabolics in the past, did all the pro hormones back then, the super draw, DMZ, all that kind of stuff, right? Back when you go to the supplement shop, you go behind the counter, and the guys will give you the little bottle, because back then, most of the pro hormones were actually designer steroids. You get them over the counter. Well, fast forward to now, I'm 35. I'm actually on TRT. So, I went on TRT about 3 years ago. Currently, I'm on a dose of about 200 milligrams testosterone per week. I do a Remedex once per week. But yeah, that's me, right? So I have a history of using anabolics. Also, I've used a lot of the DHEA prohormones in the past. So the things like 4-DHEA, 1-DHEA, and my favorite, epiandrosterone. Now, epiandro for me was probably one of my favorite legal DHEA prohormones in the past. But now I'm trying to stay away from more DHT compounds because, well, it fucks up your hair. I actually just got a hair transplant. Now my hair is actually growing back in. So for me, I'm actually trying to stay away from the more DHT compounds, even though I used to love them. So, I've been looking for new muscle builders, right? Kind of new things to kind of get me back in the game, kind of add onto my testosterone, just to kind of have a little bit of fun, amplify the effects. And of course, like you guys want to build some muscle. So to kind of give you some background right now, my stats, I sit about 5'11", maybe 6 foot on the good day, right? Maybe when I'm wearing shoes. And then as far as my weight, I'm about 230 to usually about 235 pounds. That's usually where I typically sit. And for me, I usually I try to stay under 12% body fat year round. Usually during the summertime, I'll try to cut down a little bit to, that 8-9% body fat range. So I'm not a bodybuilder, right? I don't compete. I don't do any of that stuff, but I like the lifestyle. I live it. I train it. I eat all that kind of stuff. Now let's kind of move into what I'm talking about today, right? So what you're here for. I am talking about the new pro hormone, even though it's not really a pro hormone, the 3AD. Now, Enhanced Labs made this popular, okay? They came out with 3AD a couple of years ago, so Tony Huge, all those guys, they all talk about 3AD as kind of the next gen pro hormone muscle builder because it's supposed to be non-suppressive. It's supposed to be easily stackable. You can run it solo. And they kind of claimed it was almost like a natural testosterone builder based upon blood work. So take that with a grain of salt, because what 3AD actually is, it's actually a form of androstenediol, okay? Androstenediol. Now, that is actually a DSHEA. That's a Dietary Supplement Safety Education Act compliant supplement, okay? So 3AD is a legal muscle builder. Now, the thing that I don't consider this a pro hormone because it's not like 4-DHEA, 1-DHEA. So the 4-DHEA, if you remember, that converts eventually testosterone in the body. The 1-DHEA, that eventually converted to 1-testosterone. Then we know that the epiandrosterone, that converts to DHT. It's kind of like a weak, Masteron or Proviron, if you ever used that in the past. So what intrigued me about the 3AD is the fact that it's supposed to actually amplify other anabolics. Now, when we look at 3AD, it's actually a adrenal metabolite. And as far as the potency of it, based on the paper, it says it's 293% the activity of androsterone, right? Which is androsterone is kind of like epiandro. It's a little bit more for mood though, as opposed to, epiandrosterone kind of gives you more of that like aggression, sort of that hardness. And then the androsterone is kind of more of like I would say more of like an ease on the mood. You don't get quite the aggression, but it's still good for leaning out. It's, still good for that lean, dry, hard look. And then the 3AD actually has 44% the potency of testosterone. Now, the whole thing with 3AD, it's supposed to be synergistic with other hormones out there. So for me specifically, I'm using it to boost my training along with my TRT. Again, keep in mind, I'm on 200 milligrams of testosterone per week. That's it right now. I'm not running anything else. Every once in a while, I'll run a little bit of growth hormone right there. And that's anywhere from between 1 to 2 IUs I'll do a day. But I've kind of gotten away from that right now. And just so you guys know too, I get my blood work done about every 3 months. So I get it done through my PCM and also through my TRT provider. So I have a pretty good gauge on my blood work, kind of, where my levels are at, kind of with my dosages and all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing I'm looking for with the 3AD is I want to see if it kind of helps, build a little bit of muscle, but also kind of gives me more of like a dense, kind of dry, hard look. Again, 3AD is not supposed to convert into DHT. Okay. There's a lot of reports online that 3AD is kind of supposed to be almost like a DHT style prohormone, but it's not. It does not convert to DHT, but it's supposed to give you kind of that lean, dry, hard look. Now, I've been on the 3AD for just over a week now. And as far as dosing goes, the dosing, I'll be honest, man, it's kind of all over the place when you kind of see out there online. So as far as this brand right here, this is the original patented brand. This is 3AD LLC. You can find them on Instagram. If you go to our Instagram at kava_kettlebells, eventually I will post a review and a link to this company. But you get 60 capsules in the bottle. 2 capsules gives you 50 milligrams of the 3AD. Now, based on dosage guidelines, beginners, it says start at 50 milligrams, and then you can go up to 100 milligrams. Even I've seen dosages out there of like 220 milligrams, right? I've seen some of the guys running the Enhanced Labs version of this going up to 225. And for me, where I'm sticking at right now is I am sticking at 5 capsules a day. So that comes out to 125 milligrams of the 3AD prohormone. Now, I might bump it up to 6, depending on what kind of effects that I see. But currently right now, kind of how I like to do things is I like to start, with a moderate dose because I am a little bit more advanced when it comes to anabolics. And then I'll ramp it up as I go along. So talking to the owner, he recommended between 4 and 6 caps. And then doing the bulk of them pre-workout and then the rest in the afternoon or the evening. So currently right now, how am I dosing it? I am doing 3 capsules pre-workout, and then I'm doing 2 capsules later on in the evening. So I work out about 5 a.m. So that means I'm doing my capsules about 4:30 a.m. Then I'm doing my capsules in the evening around 5 p.m. So I'm getting the full, kind of spectrum throughout the day of the dosing. And as far as effects, okay, so, don't flame me too much, but I can actually already tell after a week of taking this, the effects starting to creep in. Kind of really hit yesterday, actually. I was in the gym. I was doing back and biceps. I got some pictures here that you kind of, see. I got some video. You can see me kind of my training style. I do more hypertrophy, high volume, but I like to go for strength too, so I try to lift heavy. And I was doing back and buys yesterday, and that was the first workout that for me, it really started kicking in. And how did it kick in? Well, I felt a little bit more dense, right? The pump started coming a lot quicker, a lot easier. And overall, I felt stronger. Now, what else am I taking? So besides my testosterone, I do take pre-workout, but over the past week, I've been doing the same pre-workout, okay? That pre-workout is actually homemade. So I do 400 milligrams of caffeine. I do 2.5 milligrams of yohimbine HCl, and I do 6 grams of citrulline malate. So very, very, very basic, right? But that's how I do it. So no other factors have changed. Now, diet-wise, diet has been, I would say, fairly consistent, right? And really over the course of like a week, I mean, even with diet changes, you're not going to see a crazy amount of changes with your diet, depending on how you tweak it. But roughly, I'm getting about 3,500 calories per day. That's split over 5 meals. Depending on how this goes, I might try to bump up to about 4,000 calories a day because there is supposed to be, again, sort of a leaning effect from 3AD. And that's what I've seen from a lot of the reports online too. It's supposed to give you that lean, dry, hard muscle. So for me, I can, in the past with some of the compounds that, are a little bit more dry, I've been able to get away with some extra calories and still kind of maintain a leaner look. So that's kind of my plan as I keep on going into, week 3, 4, 5, because I do plan on running this for about 10 weeks. I'll probably start increasing my calories a little bit, see if I can maybe get, a couple extra pounds, but keep the body fat the same. So overall for me, I'm really looking for this as a way to amplify my TRT. So kind of do the whole TRT plus without getting into any compounds that for me at my age at 35, I'll be honest, man, I'm not trying to really fuck around with too much of their crazy stuff out there. I'm not doing any orals anymore. As far as injectables, yeah, I'm just sticking with testosterone. Every once in a while, I'll run Ment Trustolone just for a little tiny, tiny blast. It's actually one of my favorite steroids out there. But again, that's something that I'll do for like maybe 2 months out of the year, right? Maybe going up into like a bulk during the winter time. So for me, again, looking for something that's legal, something that's a little bit more on the safe side, non-methylated, oral muscle builder that is a little bit more in a separate category than a natural supplement. Because again, this does have anabolic activity in it. Like I mentioned to you guys in the beginning, it is a form of androstenediol. So it is a, adrenal metabolite, which kind of puts it in the same category. Maybe has some things like you've seen in the past, like if you remember like aromatase, right? Which is kind of like over-the-counter aromatase inhibitor. Kind of reminds me of like that, except maybe, a little bit more potent, okay? But again, it's not a DHEA prohormone like you might have seen right now, all the legal ones out there, the epiandrosterone, the 1-DHA, the 4-DHA. That is not this. This is a different category. Again, it's supposed to amplify the effects of what you are already taking. And if you are natural, it is supposed to give you a little extra boost. So stick with me on this journey, guys. Like I said, this is kind of my initial sort of overview video of the 3AD, kind of why I'm using it. And I'm probably going to do another video here in 5-6 weeks, kind of giving you guys my results. So cool. Shout out to 3AD LLC. Again, these guys are one of the few ones out there who are pushing this product besides Enhanced Labs. It looks quality. Like I said, so far, I've been, in about for a week. I've started noticing some effects in the gym. So honestly, I'm pretty excited to see how this run goes. Keep you guys updated.